Okay, here's what we got. We got a handful of dirty cottonwood logs to pick up, and I'm still waking up. It's just after 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I was out doing football till I don't know 11 last night. The kids' school team he's starting with this year, or I guess last year. Let's pick up some wood. Because my swing ram is bleed off, I have to go this way to fill one, and then this way to fill the other. Otherwise, there's air in the system and the thing just goes crazy. Never done this with a camera mounted up here before. It's amazing how in the way it is. Man, that's some dirty wood. This loader is really slow by comparison to modern day standards. It's some 50 years old, I imagine. I haven't seen a number plate on it yet, but I know that Savage, the company, went out of business and sold out to Furco. I think the 80s is what I think it was. So, unwind my hoses. Yeah, it's an old loader with a single stage pump, but I mean, honestly, I didn't really give much for the truck, and it's slowly making its earnings. Helps that I have a way to monetize this otherwise trash wood. Nobody wants to burn it. It doesn't have much for BTU per million cord. Most people don't want to use it for saw logs, but I have found a market for it. So anytime somebody says, "Hey, help me get rid of this stuff," I kind of jump at the opportunity. Be careful. This thing was never built for this setup. I built the bunks and everything last winter just to pick up this kind of wood because the long setup won't do it. But if I'm not careful, I can poke the wood into my hydraulic hoses underneath me that are running all this stuff, and that would be a catastrophic, I'll tell you what. I wish that the fellow that's logging this stuff up with those tractors over there could get it just a little higher. That way it's not all dirty. But I'm not complaining. It's we're doing each other a favor. I'm getting it out of his way, and he's feeding our sawmill. So yeah, no complaints. I'll just let it set for a year until the bark wants to fall off, and then I'll turn it into dimensional lumber once the bark is falling off and the dirt with it. Don't worry, I have a plan, folks. Might not be a very good plan, but it's a plan. I'm trying to get all this wood down and leveled up, and that guy was not behaving properly. Because all this weight set so far back on the axles of the truck, I try to draw this wood as far forward as possible. Sometimes it kind of gets in the way of my ladders, but it's better I have to fight to climb up and down than to have too light a steer axle. Because too light of a steer axle makes steering a little bit interesting, if you know what I mean. I'm thankful for this wood. It's kind of funny today. Everybody's so entitled and they believe the world owes them everything, and I guess that's not. I can't make that a blanket statement. You know, it's not. But there is a trend with it, and maybe we're just noticing it more. I don't know, but in a world where thankfulness or gratefulness isn't all that popular, I really try to be thankful for all this stuff. Like this old truck, it's really not a very good truck for a lot of things. It's too small to haul heavy, and it's old, but again, the price was right, and really I'm quite thankful to have it. You know, I think about what my dad and uncle did when they started out, which I'm kind of beyond starting out, I will grant, but they started out with an old F-250 and an International with a fifth wheel trailer, like an equipment mover trailer. And those guys would go out in the woods with that F-250, the 72, I don't know if I said, and they cut the birch into 4 foot and 8 foot lengths, depending on the diameter of the tree. Sorry, I'm focusing and talking. And then they would throw it on the truck, haul it out to the landing, such as it was, where that International was sitting, and they'd hand load 10 cords of 4 foot and 8 foot wood on that truck. And maybe if I'm feeling sporty, I'll post a picture. I got one picture of that old International loaded. Hand loaded. That's, 55,000 pounds of wood on and off. And Dad talks about getting it stuck one time. And in order to get it unstuck out of the mud hole, they had to hand unload it, get the truck out, and carry all the wood back to the trailer, reload it, take it to the customer, and then hand unload it and deliver it. I mean, that is a lot of work. And so I've got no room to complain about this slow loader and underpowered truck. I mean, that was just the first truck. The second truck was some better. Its loader was slower than this one, as I recall. I was around for that truck. It was an old 1957 auto car. No back window. Dad said his lunch would freeze on sub-zero days when he was logging. And I do remember my seat was a milk crate. I think we're talking like 1989, maybe 91 is when I was riding it. We got a nice 10-wheeler, and I think it was 88. But yeah, that's where they started. So again, thankfulness. This is so nice by comparison to what I remember starting with back, close to 40 years ago now. Well, for them it was 40 years ago. It was 1985 when they got the firewood operation going. Dad was 24, and my uncle was 21, and they were tough kids. They grew up in a harsh environment. Someday maybe I'll go into that, but their difficulty breeds strength in a lot of ways, and they grew up difficult, so they grew up strong. In some ways, I'm jealous of the way they were brought up, and again, thankful that I didn't have those struggles. God has been good to us over the years, folks. I got a good job. This is really mostly just a hobby for me. Like, I've focused on hobbies that pay for themselves, and this hobby has kind of done a little better than just paying for itself recently. And I had a bunch of friends tell me that I needed to start a YouTube channel. So here we are with that. And then once I started a YouTube channel, I got a bunch of YouTube friends that keep pushing me to post more and do more videos. Here's looking at you, Mike, with Rusty Garage and Homestead. And yeah, it's been a blessing. I can reach it all this time. So I got one more load out of here the kid was here for. And when he skidded it all over, he skidded it parallel with the truck. So there was a bunch of wood going out that way, like logs, chunk, 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 chunk. And you can only reach so far with the loader. And I said, hey, it's really a lot better if you put them perpendicular to the truck, so that even if I can't reach them all on my arc, I can just pull the truck forward, and I don't have to choker them in. And he did and listened, and we're doing a good job helping each other out. Look at that one just fell right into place. I gotta be careful because the pedestal I'm sitting on, if I don't keep clearance for it, I gotta move that one. If I don't keep clearance for it, I can stack the wood up too high back here, and then I can't swing the loader back to the neutral position because the pedestal hooks up on the wood. It's kind of fun how many friends, actual friends, social media can bring. I looked at, I was perusing cruising the old waste book, as I've recently learned, or I've recently heard. Man, I can get behind that. And I saw one of the local sawmills in the area post a picture of a log truck, and the guy's number says, hey, if you need firewood, give this guy a call. He's got lots and whatnot. Since the truck was just almost identical to the one that I should say cut my teeth on the steering wheel, because I do remember being 2 years old, or not about that, and possibly chewing on the big old 22-inch Kenworth wheel. But anyway, it's very, very close. Same brand of loader, close to same year truck, same model of truck. Ours was a 75 W900B with a 350 Cummins and a Grizzly. I think it was a 16-ton Grizzly loader. That one's fighting me a little bit. And the truck that was posted was a 79 with an old Detroit, poor guy, and a 21,000 pound Grizzly loader. Anyway, it all just kind of took me back a little bit. So the sawmill guy sent put a post about it, and I left his number, so I called him, or texted him rather. Said, hey, this is who I am. This is my history. This is why I'm texting. I basically grew up in your truck, and I just saying hi, and introducing myself to other timber beasts in the area, and so on and so on. And the response I get back is, "Oh yeah, hi," or paraphrase, "Hi, I actually subscribe to your YouTube channel." And I've got at time of posting here, I've got 125 subscribers. What are the chances that I'm going to cold text one of those 125 subscribers out of everybody in the world? But no, I was saying that the social media actually works for making friends, and he and I have become fast friends. I had him out to the house for a few hours the other night. He brought his little I think it's a blue heeler puppy, and we visited over that old Kenworth for a long time. I showed him some of the stuff I got going on, and it's just really good to meet good folks in the timber community and homestead community, and just whatever your niche is. But it's amazing how many real people this fake profiles can bring up. I shouldn't say fake profiles. It can be. I mean, we all know that there's people out there that are pretending to be things they're not, and I really don't want to. I don't ever want to be accused of doing that with this, because this isn't my full-time job. I actually work for the state. Maybe someday I'll get into that. And the family excavation side of things is secondary, and this is just tertiary. But with all the fake stuff going on social media, it's interesting to find a real friend out there every once in a while. Okay, I picked all that wood up. That's just about as much as I can carry and still swivel with. Let's see if I can get this camera on lock here. See, my pedestal I'm sitting on has to clear that wood. Yeah, again, this was never designed to have that extra set of bunks back there. There was just a flat spot that I was able to monopolize on when I got this thing. Another blessing, right? Another thing to be thankful for. So I'm going to get this wood, take it home, get it off the truck, and then he wants me to come get that stuff. And it's been down a year or so, but I think it's worth picking up. What I think when I videoed from the house on the drive here was 24 minutes, so it's worth it. All right, I'm gonna rack this thing and get bound down, and then I will see you guys in the cab here shortly. picked up. Bust out the 500i and knock that little piece off. Just a couple feet past the tail lights. I think that's probably 1,200 board feet. I do firewood, or I've done firewood so much in the past that I'm not really all that great at guessing board footage. But that's probably closing in on 3 cords, and there's 500 cords-ish, depending on your scale, to the 500 board feet to the cord, so a little bit of a guess there. I could throw more on. I could come over here and lump a little bit, a couple more pieces on there. A couple 8-footers actually. But I can only reach so high too. That's so close to the loader that once I go up with the boom, I can't get the grapple beyond like right here. So it gets a little hard to load beyond that. All right, let's get back to the house. Yep, I don't have a lot of weight on the steers. That bounced on takeoff. This old wore out truck is not all that great with clutch application. Or maybe it's just me trying to get used to it. I'm used to something a little more modern, maybe not modern, a little more refined, maybe. Again, I'm going to be thankful for this thing since it's doing what I need it to do, and it's mine, not the family business's. Which is something I should make an important distinction there, that there's a difference between some of the videos I post with all the equipment. Dirt iron, none of it's mine, but this is mine, and yeah, it's been a blessing. When I was up on the tower, I touched on some of the history. Figure I might as well tell you why this intrigues me the way it does, and why I've spent time and effort at it. You know, I talked about cutting my teeth in the log truck, and you know that was true. Some of my first memories that I can recall. I remember sitting in Dad's lap right here in that old W900A, 22-inch wheel in my hand, and I must have been maybe 3. We were up just south of Mount McKinley, it's Talkeetna, and Trapper Creek. Maybe it was Trapper Creek we were at. Again, I was 3. I slept since then. I'm closing in on 40 now. But it was cold, frozen logging roads. And Dad put me up on his lap, and he let me steer that load out of the logging road. Now, was I really steering? No, the ruts in the road were that deep. The truck would have driven itself, but man, I was just all sorts of excited about that. And then one of my other memories, during the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and I'm trying to remember if that was 88 or 89. I'm thinking 89, and I'll try to look it up and correct during the editing process here. But Mom took me up to the landing where Dad was unbelling chokers for a helicopter coming in. They're helicopter logging in south central Alaska, which is not something I've heard of since. And my uncle was on the other end hooking chokers for them. And they were, the reason it was the Exxon Valdez oil spill comes to mind is because they were logging dunnage for the oil spill. And I'm going to have to figure out what that was about. Why would they need dunnage, that much dunnage, for the oil spill? But I'll ask Dad maybe this afternoon. We're having a big family fair, you know, since COVID happened and they shut the state fair down. We do a big family fair every year now for our extended family. So some of my first memories, I'll say some of my first memories are of logging, of the timber sales, of all that. It's just been something that's stuck with me for the decades. I don't know, I love it. I don't get to do much of it anymore since you know the whole state job thing and dirt work. You know, every house we dig, we're residential dirt workers, and every house we dig has to be cleared and logged and all that. So, you know, we do log that much all the time, but as far as timber sales and everything anymore, they're just, in this area, there's not enough profitable timber sales to make the whole thing worth it. So we don't do it anymore. We still have all the old iron, as I'm sure you've seen over the videos. So there's the fact that I was a kid in it, and then as far as I know, tracing back on my maternal grandmother's side, she's still with us. She's born in 35. I guess she's 90 this year, 90 next month. And she was number one of 17 children born in a logging camp somewhere in northern Maine, Belknap area, I think. I know she talks about those Pelletier boys off American Loggers from some time ago being our family. Somewhere back, I don't know, obscure second cousin or something. But she mentioned that, and then she talks about growing up on the logging camps, and her father, and she thinks her grandfather were in the woods on the East Coast. So as best I can figure, I'm 5th generation in the woods, and even that I'm kind of removed from it now, but I definitely want to keep that alive. And I've got he's going to be 16 here before too long, my son. He's doing some of it. I'm hoping he'll take into it, but our bloodline is in the woods, and at least my paternal dad's mother. I don't know if I said maternal earlier. Anyway, my dad's mother was that way, and then my mom's side of the family, they were all sawmill guys, sawyers and loggers in northern Idaho and Washington. So I've got generational bloodlines in the woods on both sides of my family on both coasts. So it's I couldn't avoid it, and frankly I wouldn't if I could. I love it. I might not love it so much if it was what I had to feed my family with all the time. It helps, this wood that I'm going to run across the sawmill will pay for hockey and football for Bo, or in part anyway. But I wouldn't want to try to make an honest to goodness living off of it. Yeah. So anyway, history. Stay on the point. And then here I was about, talking about the late 80s and 90s. I'm on 8.3 up the hill. So we got into dirt work, I think 87. I was 1. And I kind of just glommed onto the dirt work for the most part. I worked for a fella for, must have been 10 years. And then Dad and Uncle decided it was time to go out on their own for some reasons. And so that was 97. And we were still logging then. We were still doing timber sales. And I remember doing some big cotton stuff, which is surprising. People commercially sell cottonwood. Must have been 96. So all most of that from, again, Trapper Creek area. But after that, they kind of tapered off. We did some firewood. We had an old Blockbuster firewood processor. One of the first things that I was able to run by myself. But we ended up selling that about 98, 99, I think. And then the log truck, the old W900B model, we changed over trucks in 95. But that A model was more out, turned into a dump truck. It was a really nice restored dump truck for a while, but W900A models are not very maneuverable, so it didn't last very long until we got a nice P800. And then the log truck set for basically 99 to 2011. We were digging field lots, and there was no logging to be done, so it's set for a long time. Doing a couple things around the house, loaded and unloaded septic tanks every once in a while. But in 2011, the firewood guy that we had been using, you know, to let him come get our wood as we needed to get rid of it, he ran into some health issues or something. And some of this is foggy memory, so if anybody's watching, if you can correct me, not that I think there is, but do so. So we got the log truck go back together and started hauling firewood. I think he was unable to come get it or something. So we started running into him. And then, you know what, my parents are probably going to watch this, and they will probably correct me later. And he finally passed, I think it was 2015, so we ended up with this firewood processor, one you see videos of it by now. And, yeah. 2015 when we started the wood yard backed up, and we've been kind of doing a lot more of it since. I bought that homemade sawmill in 2013 because I wanted to build a shed, and I didn't want to pay money for lumber. I still don't have a shed, and I've worked the snot out of that sawmill over the past 12 years, off and on, some years more than others. But then I met Gary, who you've seen in some of these videos, and he taught me into really monetizing a lot of this. He's been a big push for a lot of the sawmill stuff, and selling and pearls, and I always cut them, but I mostly cut them just to see what's inside of them for me. Like, yeah, that's cool. Now that's some really overly handled firewood. But once I met him and started visiting with him, he's since convinced me for the past, I don't know, 4 years now, I guess, to mill and sell, and it's been fairly lucrative. You know, I wouldn't have all this but for that. Maybe the truck, because I'll probably do some contract. Have done, and probably will continue to do some contract hauling, but I wouldn't be hunting this conduit, I can tell you that. Anyway, that's kind of what leads us up to this point, and why I love working in the woods, or such as it is, or subdivision development, and why I would probably continue to grow in this thing. Once I retire from my state job, I might upgrade this truck, and that might be what I do for the next 40 years, from 40 to 80. And I'll probably love it all the while, unless the timber market falls out, which is part of why we quit logging for firewood, is because natural gas came into this area, and nobody wanted to buy firewood anymore. So before that, it was heating oil and propane. And a wood stove is a lot less expensive to heat your house with than heating oil, and even still is. It's more work. I try to, Dad and I should say, talk once in a while, and we try to weigh firewood costs, or our firewood pricing based on heating oil, and try to stay proportional to that, because why would you heat your house with firewood with the cleaning of the chimney, the potential fire hazard, bringing wood in and out? Why would you do all that if you could just buy fuel oil for cheaper? Unless it's like a boutique firewood thing, like a lot of people in the expensive areas do. They've got nice wood stoves or fireplaces and whatnot. They want to sit with their pipe and their thing of bourbon and listen to the dry spruce crackle over a fire, right? That's our dry, crackly wood in this area. But that's kind of few and far between. So we try to keep our firewood price, somewhat competitive with fuel oil, right? And I don't think we've reinvestigated it in several years. We're just kind of running with market now. That was the thought process early in life. Again, it's service. But when natural gas came in, it was cheaper, more convenient, so why firewood, right? If I haven't said it before, 8.3 liters of Cummins power, while better than the old 225 that was in that auto car, I imagine. Not a lot of horsepower to a heavy log truck. even at this, I'm feeling a little bit of weight. There's probably only, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 15,000 pounds of wood on that back deck back there. That's not a lot. You know, that log truck, the one we have now that I think I posted some about, it runs 55,000 pounds legally. Ish. The one video I have that's kind of taken off some of this, I think I had, 7 cords on here maybe, and that was 35,000 pounds. This thing was grossing it about 76,000 pounds, give or take, with that load on there. And I was pulling some 7% grades at 15 miles an hour. But again, imagine having this thing in 1985 when you were used to throwing wood on in 4 and 8 foot sections by hand. So way more truck than that. So again, continue to maintain thankfulness, gratitude. I think I know where that old auto car may be. Actually, it was on this route. You might not that you could have seen it because I didn't see it. But on one of those turns, there's a bunch of junk off to the right side, and Dad sold it to that yard in '93, I think. And it had a 225 Cummins with a 5-speed and a 4-speed Brownie box next to it. And it was a 3-speed. But if I could get a hold of that old truck, and I could strip the Brownie box out of it, auxiliary transmission, in other words, and make this 8-speed into a 24-speed, I guess, and have narrower splits and a lower low and a higher high, because a Brownie box auxiliary transmission or Brownie box, that was rough. They've got low, direct, and overdrive. There are 3 gears on a 3-speed. I think the one in Dad's log truck is low, direct, and overdrive. But that would make a world of difference in how this truck got around, having a bunch of extra gears. So if I can get that and put it in here, then it might make this thing a little more viable. I got a motorcycle behind me now. Poor guy. Oh, every time I drive this thing, or any log truck, for the past, I don't know, 8 years, since I was introduced to the guy, Buzz Martin was a songwriter in the 70s, I think. Maybe 60s. But he was a logger first and a songwriter later. And he sings songs. It's called Different Breed of Truck Driving Man. And it talks about, everybody getting out of his way because there's bark and dirt flying and things barely held together with bubble gum and aluminum foil. And it's just a funny old song about log trucks, log truck drivers. How traffic around them is always nervous. And then they got the Final Destination movie that I watched one time when I was a teenager. That was new release. And I definitely appreciated that scene with all the wood coming off there. And, doing that thing. Horror and thrillers are not my genre. I only saw that once. That's all that I remember of the movie, honestly. But again, for somebody that was raised in the seat of a log truck and in a state, in an area in a state that doesn't have a lot, anytime I see one, especially back then, it kind of catches my attention some. This poor motorcycle, because my guy behind me probably really wants to open it up down this windy road, but this poor old truck here, I've got a whopping 28 miles an hour on for these S-turns. I imagine he's bored. and the road is not wide enough that I can pull over for him anywhere. Honestly, I'm 3/4 of a mile maybe from turning off onto my homestead road here, so he can be patient. I got a cheap camera mount, and I'm watching my iPhone 14, 15, 16, whatever it is, bouncing around in this phone mount, and I really hope that it's not going to ruin this or make you all dizzy riding along with me here. It's kind of fun. It doesn't happen very often, but old Dad took that W900D out this morning to deliver a load of firewood up the highway, and it brings me some amusement that Dad and I are both hauling logs in different applications at the same time. I don't know why. It's silly, but it makes me smile. I'm a very simple individual, I guess. Alright, rolling into the homestead. Get unbound, grab my tripod, and get all this wood kicked off here.
Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you.